I read out this entire thing, and then I realized later on that it had stopped recording. I'm very upset now. My throat hurts. But here we go. Take 2! Yes! Right, so, hello, hi, I have no idea why I'm making this video other than pure boredom. Yeah, so, recently I put out this little short that was following the Impossible Art Challenge trend that was making the rounds a while back. I'll roll the clip.
Impossible Art Challenge. Create an OC with no trauma. That's right, no PTSD, no scars. They must have all 4 of their limbs intact. They must have a living and loving family group.
So, yeah, as you saw, most everyone was out the first round, except for Toby. Not because of favoritism, Toby's not even my favorite, but because of multiple other factors. And I guess that I just wanted to explain said factors because, yeah, you know, why not? Also because I promised someone that I would explain why basically everyone is traumatized. Let's get into it! Also, I apologize in advance if the way I speak sounds clunky. I'm following a script that I wrote while listening to Hartebeest on repeat, so... Okay, before we actually begin, I need to clarify that all of my OCs are listener OCs. You might be thinking, Vin, what the hell does that mean? Well, let me tell ya. Firstly, you all must know that I listen to audio roleplays. Now, before you boo me off of the stage, I would like to say that it is not cringe, and it is not those audio RPs. I hate those with a passion, and I immediately report them whenever I come across them. No, the audio RPs that I listen to originate from this neat little channel called Redacted Audio, and there's fantastic lore and storytelling and world building behind the entire thing, let me tell you. Now, within every audio RP is a listener character. The listener is a stand-in for us, who takes the place of the listener, since, you know, we're listening to the audio. It's pretty straightforward. Most people just use the listener as a self-insert for themselves, but I like to make listener OCs, which basically means I create my own original character to take the place of the listener in these audio roleplays. Literally almost all of my OCs are listener OCs. There is a reason my Art5 page looks like this. I just wanted to get that out of the way because a good portion of the trauma that my OCs experienced is a direct result of things that have happened to the listener they're supposed to embody. You know, Theo has trauma from the car accident because he's the listener OC for Sunshine. Teddy has a lot of trauma because he's the listener OC for Darlin, who canonically did not make great decisions in their past, etc., etc. Right. Now, let's really get into it, yeah? Now, Angelo, in comparison to the rest of my OCs, doesn't really have that much trauma. He only has 2 X's, which is pretty good, in my opinion. The first X is from the first round, which is no trauma. Angelo had a relatively good childhood, good parents, good living environment, etc. So, if it's not childhood trauma, then what is it? This is where the listener part of things comes into play. Canonically, the listener, Angel, has trauma from the inversion event, lore-heavy event that effectively traumatized half of the characters. You know, nearly losing your boyfriend to a life-stealing monster tends to have that effect on people. Angel was also present during the Monarchical Summit, which is essentially a vampire version of the gala, also very lore-heavy, where someone was executed right in front of them. Yeah. The second X is from the third round, No Scars. Now, I wasn't completely sure if the no scars meant scars from trauma or just scars in general. I decided that it meant scars in general because the scars that Angelo have are not from trauma, but rather top surgery scars. So, yeah, that's that. Same as Angelo, Orion only has 2 exes, and he has them pretty much for the same reasons. He nearly lost his own boyfriend in the inversion, he was also present at the summit, and he has scars from top surgery. Pretty simple. However, Orion has something Angelo doesn't have: childhood trauma. Orion's sister, Eleanor, was diagnosed with cancer when he was 18, and she died about a year later. I don't have any quips for this one, as I personally don't know how to deal with a loss like that. Eleanor's death caused Orion to lose the sense of self for a few years, as he didn't really know what he wanted to do with his life after her passing. Fortunately, he started recovering from the shock of her death when he started taking art classes at his college. Art was something Eleanor had always encouraged him to do. Just like Angelo and Orion, Nico only has 2 exes, one from trauma and the other from a living and loving family. No scars. Here again, we dive into the listener side of things. The listener's sweetheart works as an investigator for the department. Very basically, they're a cop. They've seen some shit as an investigator, which results in, you guessed it, trauma. Sweetheart was also present during the inversion event, and they also almost lost their boyfriend because of it. Oh, and they were also present at the summit, by the way, in case you were wondering. Naturally, since Nico is my listener OC for Sweetheart, all of this translates over to them. The second ex, a living and loving family, comes from Nico themselves. Nico has a bit of beef with their family, mainly their parents, who weren't really present while they were growing up, so while the family may be alive, it's a bit complicated when it comes to the whole loving part. This is where things get interesting. Teddy has 4 exes: trauma, PTSD, scars, and family. Most of Teddy's trauma stems from, you guessed it, the listener Darlin. Darlin was canonically reckless and stubborn, and they made bad choices, such as getting cozy with a psychotic vampire who was implied to abuse them in some way. They've gotten better, though they're still pretty stubborn, and they seem to have mostly healed from the trauma they've endured. So this explains the whole trauma, PTSD, and scars bit. But what about family? Well, it's a popular headcanon among the fandom that Darlin has family issues, whether that be abusive or neglectful parents. My personal headcanon, and lore for Teddy, is that Darlin's parents weren't abusive or neglectful, but they made Darlin feel like they weren't good enough, and that they couldn't be themselves around their parents. This is stemming from personal experience. So, yeah, Teddy has a bit of beef with his parents, same as Nico. Living family, questionable on the loving part. Kai. Same as Teddy, most of Kai's trauma comes from him being lovely, who famously has the worst luck out of all the characters, listeners included. Like Teddy, Kai has the 4 same exes: trauma, PTSD, scars, and family. The listener, Lovely, was a latent electroenergetic. Their powers manifested through a traumatic encounter with a vampire named Adam. Don't worry, he's dead now. And so that means trauma. PTSD and scars? Check. About a year and a half later, the inversion event takes place. Lovely gets attacked by a shade, and the only way to save them is to turn them into a vampire. I should preface that their boyfriend Vincent is a vampire and is the one who turned them. Trauma, PTSD, and scars? Check. And yes, they were also at the summit. Trauma? Check. This is what I meant when I said that they have the worst luck. So yeah, all of this translated over to Kai. Kai also has some childhood trauma from his mom being neglectful and abusive, which kind of explains the family part. So, Kai's mom didn't really care about him. What about their dad and their stepfather? Kai had an excellent relationship with the both of them. So, what happened? Well, since Kai was turned, he essentially died, right? In turn, their death was falsified by the department, and his parents were told that their only son is dead. Forget about having a living and loving family. Kai doesn't have a family because to them, he's dead. Literally. That isn't to say he doesn't have a found family, which they do. I interpreted the whole family thing as biological family, not found family, which 9 times out of 10 gets formed because of trauma. So, Ariel has 2 exes, trauma and PTSD. Surprisingly, this doesn't come from the listener treasure, but rather from Ariel themselves. Suffice it to say, Ariel had an abusive ex who was very manipulative and persuasive. It was very hard for Ariel to leave him, and in the end, he committed because they left him. Trauma and PTSD, check. Nothing bad has happened to Treasure in canon as of yet, but seeing as they're in a relationship with a vampire, I expect them to get into a situation relatively soon. The holy grail of listeners. The person, the myth, the legend. Samanthan has not 1, not 2, not 3, but 5 exes. Or in other terms, they got out all 5 rounds. Now, as you would expect, a lot of this stems from their listener counterpart, Bright Eyes, who, despite having been scrapped along with their speaker Fred, is still widely beloved by the fandom. The first 4 rounds, trauma, PTSD, scars, and loss of limbs, all come from Bright and Fred having been attacked by a psychotic rogue vampire named Quinn. He sounds eerily similar to another vampire we heard about earlier, doesn't he? Well, that's because he's Darlin's ex. You're welcome. From what I can gather, Fred and Bright were brutally attacked and mauled by Quinn. The only way to save them was for them to be turned. So you could imagine that the both of them would be effectively traumatized and scarred from the encounter. And Samanthan lost a few fingers, unfortunately. This only explains the trauma that comes from Bright. But trust me, Samanthan has their own trauma separate from being Bright. Samanthan has, you guessed it, childhood trauma because of their abusive father, who is now behind bars, don't worry, and they lost their family because they were turned, and by turned I mean died. Bonus, they were also turned into a scapegoat by their new family, basically the moment that they opened their eyes to their new life, which is amazing. So, yeah, Samanthan is the most traumatized of all of the characters. That's not my fault. Okay, maybe it's 50% my fault, but the rest of it is all because they're Bright. Compared to Samanthan, Rowan seems relatively untraumatized, having only 2 exes, trauma and scars. Rowan had a relatively good childhood, but he did start spiraling when he was a young adult, faced with undiagnosed depression and overwhelming feelings of loneliness. This accounts for a bit of the scars portion. The other bit is top surgery scars and having a very long incision scar from whenever he had spinal fusion surgery in order to fix his scoliosis. And the trauma comes from Freelancer, as one would expect. You know, the Cody situation, the inversion, etc. Caspian also has 2 exes, trauma and scars. I dare you to guess the reason. Go on, guess. Surprisingly, Deer doesn't have any trauma, though maybe I shouldn't be surprised considering they were introduced after most lore-heavy events and stuff. Caspian, however, does have trauma. Caspian, when they were younger, accidentally put their parent into a coma when they lost control of their magic. Oops. As a result of that, their family alienated them for a good while. I forgot to put down the family X, but yeah, Caspian has beef with their family. I had canon that Deer was actually present for the inversion, so Caspian got trauma from that. And the scars? Top surgery. 4 X's, trauma, PTSD, scars, and loss of limbs. Why did I do that in like the hot to go thing? As you've probably already guessed, all of this stems from the listener Sunshine having been in a car accident. Trauma, PTSD, scars, limbs? Check. It's a popular headcanon that Sunshine lost one of their limbs in the car accident, and so Theo lost his left foot. Not to mention, Theo has gained a lot more trauma, having been kidnapped, interrogated, and then held in a basement for 2 years. Another part of scars is top surgery. Just expect that if a character has scars, it most likely means that they've had top surgery, okay? Okay. And now we arrive to the sole winner of the Impossible Art Challenge, Toby! Toby had a good childhood, good young adult life, all that jazz. Come on. I had to make sure that one of my OCs had a good life, right? Also because we know next to nothing about Bestie, so. No, nothing bad has happened to the listener Bestie yet. I say yet because it's only a matter of time before they come face to face with their undead, possessed, situationship turned boyfriend, but that's a story for another time. And for clarification, I personally don't think that their altercation with Blake was traumatic. I consider it as them having a problem that went unresolved for a long time. I don't consider it trauma. But then again, I'm not a therapist or a psychiatrist or a doctor, so I'm not really qualified to say what's trauma and what's not. But that's my take on it. And finally, our last character, Zephyr, with 3 X's, trauma, PTSD, and scars. As you've already guessed, the trauma and PTSD stem from Starlight, while the scars are because, Zephyr has gotten top surgery. Easy, simple, all that jazz. Trauma and PTSD-wise, getting trapped between realities, having your memories messed around with by ancient gods, and the love of your life lying in order to protect you tends to have a sort of effect on people. Yeah, Sovereign State is a lot. Not to mention, Zephyr had a bit of a rocky relationship with their mom, but they managed to resolve it before she died. And that's a wrap, ladies, gentlemen, and lovely captains of the jury. I hope y'all enjoyed me yapping about my OCs and basically mansplaining redacted audio lore. Let me know if y'all want me to do, a part 2 to this someday, and I will get right to it. Yeah. Bye for now.